In celebration of the Blu-ray release of Pinocchio on January 31st, Geek Speak TV was invited to take a very rare and special tour of the Walt Disney Company's Animation Research Library, or ARL. The ARL is the leading authority on the Walt Disney Animation Studio artistic legacy. They are in charge of a collection of approximately 65 million pieces of animation and artwork created over the company's almost 90-year history. The Animation Research Library used to go by the name the Morgue, but is the exact opposite of what its name would imply. It's where artwork from the past lives on. Current Disney artists are encouraged to visit and gain inspiration from all of the work that has been done on projects past. The first research library was originally built underground at the Disney Studios in Burbank. The new library is currently located in Glendale and is made up of 11 climate-controlled vaults and is closed to the public. On this rare tour inside, we were given the chance to speak to the library's director, Fox Carney, a 24-year veteran of the Walt Disney Company. Fox has spent nearly 21 of those years assisting in the ARL. He discusses the beauty the artist created with Pinocchio. And this is a special place to be because this is not open to the public.
No, this is only open to people within the Walt Disney Company. And the Animation Research Library is where we store and preserve just about all the animation art that the Walt Disney Company possesses, from its shorts and its features, from the 1920s all the way to current day. So when Walt actually started making animated features, that was a landmark, because when he made Snow White, nobody thought you could make a feature-length animated film. That was crazy, but the public loved it.
And the reason for the idea of that's crazy is because it takes 24 frames per second.
To make a feature.
To make a feature.
And how are you going to keep people's attention for 60 or 70 minutes for a cartoon? That was unheard of back then. But Snow White was a wild success. And because of the success of that, Walt and the studio was able to work on Pinocchio and try to make that film what it was. Because for Pinocchio, they pulled out all the stops, all the technical tricks. They tried to do what they could to animate these characters that were like a little wooden boy. How do you animate a little wooden boy? So everything, every technical trick, every creative trick that they could come up with, they put into this film, making it Pinocchio. The animators would then be developing the characters in their own right, trying to figure out how do you make this wooden boy appealing. Early on, the various renditions of Pinocchio that the studio was working with, he was just not very appealing. He was actually kind of bratty in a way. And his design was pointy and angular. It wasn't until, say, Milt Kahl took a turn at trying to design Pinocchio, made it rounder and more friendlier. And then they approached the character as sort of a naive young boy, and innocent. And then the film became very much appealing.
We were also given the chance to talk to author J.B. Kaufman, who has written and lectured on Disney animation, American silent film, and related topics. His books include Pinocchio, The Making of the Disney Epic. He discusses some of the magic that Walt created to bring the wooden boy like Pinocchio to life. Pinocchio, for me, was probably one of the first movies I ever saw as a kid growing up. Where did your love for Pinocchio come from?
It's pretty similar. Like a lot of us, I became a Disney kid at a very early age, and like you, Pinocchio was one of the first ones that I saw.
Pinocchio is one of the few rare movies that has 100% Rotten Tomato rating, which means that everybody loves this movie. To you, what do you think is its draw?
To me, Pinocchio is one of the all-time peaks of excellence in the art of animation. I don't like to get into comparisons, because at some point it really does become apples and oranges. But if you had to find a perfect example of what is possible in the art of animation, you really couldn't do better than Pinocchio. It's the craft honed to an all-time peak of perfection. When I was working on my book, I had occasion to see the film many times. I'm still seeing new things in it every time. It's a remarkable work of art.
Now, what is your favorite scene as far as animation goes from Pinocchio?
I think that one of the early sequences in Geppetto's workshop, where you're first getting a look at the clocks, just the range of imagination and invention in all of the clocks that he has carved. That's very, very witty. The chase with the whale underwater is just, it's a masterpiece of bravura effects animation. The all of the comedy with the fox and cat, that's good plain old slapstick comedy in animation, and nobody has ever done it better than that. Those would be a few.
Two of my three favorite scenes, which is the clockwork scene, which for those who haven't seen it, is just all of the function of all the different types of clocks that are out there.
And they built working models of some of those clocks.
Did they really?
Yeah, that's how far they went in producing this film. They actually built working models of these clocks, and the animators studied how they worked. And that little mechanical movement that you see in those figures, that's not an accident. That's one of the really remarkable things about the animation in this film. Watch Pinocchio when Geppetto is first making him walk, and then watch him after he comes to life. It is unmistakable the instant you see him, whether it's an inanimate object that's being moved by someone else, or when it's the actual living Pinocchio moving on his own.
When your research, which scene was the most complex that you found?
Well, one of the most remarkable ones that people always single out is the morning of the next day after Pinocchio comes to life. The next scene starts with the scene of the camera moving down over the rooftops and down into the street. That was such a technical tour de force that it took months and months and months to put that together. They had actually pioneered the multiplane camera before that, which you see in Snow White and some of the other films. This shot was so complex that the multiplane couldn't handle it. So they actually had to recreate the whole principle horizontally. So they built camera tracks the way you would for a dolly shot in a live action film. And then huge panes of glass representing the different levels as the camera moves into the street. And then on top of that there was character animation. So you had cells that were in platens clamped in place in front of some of those things. And so the camera had to move frame by frame through this glass and paint landscape. It's just an amazing achievement.
Thank you to the Walt Disney Company for providing us the amazing opportunity to learn about the history of Disney animation and help us celebrate the release of the Disney classic Pinocchio on Blu-ray January 31st. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more from Geek Speak TV.